everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at the altcoin market, whether we're still going to see altcoins move or if we're going to just see Bitcoin move or whatever impact that is going to have on it moving forward. And so I do have a special guest with me, Cade here, and he has been in the market for 8 years since 2017. He has a lot of experience in the cryptocurrency space. And so welcome to the channel, Cade.
Hey, Altcoin Hero, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here and always happy to talk crypto and, what's going on in the market. So yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, if you guys enjoy this content, do me a favor and hit the like button and subscribe for both of our channels. I will put Cade's information underneath the video, so you can go ahead and subscribe to his content as well. And so I will post Cade's YouTube channel underneath the video here. There's a lot of great content on here, so I definitely recommend checking that out. Now, there's also a link underneath the video to Weex exchange if you're interested in trading different altcoins. There's tons of different altcoins on this platform. They have leverage and spot trading. There is no KYC required. And so definitely make sure to check out that link underneath the video. And so let's go ahead and jump right into it here. Let's take a look at Trump orders administration to evaluate potential for national digital asset stockpile. And so previously, Donald Trump was mentioning that we're going to see a national Bitcoin strategic reserve. And a lot of people are still anticipating that. They're expecting that to come out here very soon. However, I personally think that this could be changing over to be a national digital asset stockpile. And I personally think this is very advantageous moving forward. In the traditional finance space, a lot of people say to diversify your portfolio. Now, if they were just buying Bitcoin, right, that would be putting all your eggs in one basket. Now, we don't know who the creator of Bitcoin is. We know that it's Satoshi. However, it could be someone in Russia. It could be any other country. And so that's something to keep in mind, that it could be very high risk moving forward. Imagine if the United States put all of their money into Bitcoin and somebody wanted to have a massive impact on the economy of the United States, they could. Now, if we diversify all of our assets, right, say we want to put some money into Ripple or XRP, and then you want to buy different assets, Chainlink or Hedera or any cryptocurrency that is out there. Now, some of those other cryptocurrencies are also made in the USA. We just had news from Eric Trump yesterday that they could potentially be looking at zero tax on USA cryptocurrencies. And a lot of people that are Bitcoin maxis are not very happy about that, right? We don't know where Bitcoin's being made. And so it's definitely something to keep in mind. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at this here. We have Elon Musk that is also exploring blockchain technology to track US government spending, secure data, process payments, and manage federal property, aiming to boost transparency and reduce waste through critics warn of potential challenges. And so Elon Musk here wants to utilize blockchain technology to monitor government efficiency in the spending. And I think this is a great use of the technology, right? The spending of the government should be transparent. We should be able to see where a lot of the spending is taking place, where the money is going. And so I think this is very positive moving forward. Now, we do not know exactly what public blockchain this could be. It may be a private blockchain that was created just for this use case here. However, we could see this be Hedera, or it could be a different one as well. Now, Elon Musk is familiar with Hedera here. Now, Weex has a partnership here with Hedera, the hash graph. And so that's definitely something to be paying attention to. He is aware of this technology, and he could be utilizing it for the government of efficiency.
Yeah, no, really, really interesting. I took a little bit of a different approach in terms of talking about, if we could potentially see some altcoin things going and like an altcoin season kicking off. I want to talk about from like a much, much higher level. I think a lot of this type of stuff we can see, particularly with like hash graph and some of that type of stuff, like would be massive. I think like individual point like catalysts to kind of kick off an alt season. People need to understand that like there's kind of two things that need to happen, and both kind of need to happen at the same time. We need to have kind of like the macro environment primed and ready for some type of alt season, at least in my opinion. But then also we do need to have some particular like kind of point catalysts happening that can kind of kick off some of that frenzy, right? And so seeing Hashgraph do a 10, 15, 20x, that would do it, right? Something like that would definitely help. Also seeing things like, the Bitcoin national or digital asset stockpile, seeing things like Solana, Chainlink, XRP, a lot of the, Hedera, a lot of these things getting pulled into like a national, like, I guess, reserve, like.
Yeah, but you're definitely right there. I mean, even in previous cycles, in 2017, 2021, all it takes is one cryptocurrency of altcoins, right? I mean, if Chainlink does a 10x from now, we're going to see a ton of other altcoins follow. Now, that doesn't mean that every single altcoin is going to go up, right? It's going to be altcoins that have utility moving forward. But I do definitely agree with you there that all it takes is one partnership, right? Or Elon Musk to say that I'm going to use this cryptocurrency, or the government saying that they're going to start implementing XRP into the digital asset stockpile. And I think that will kick off an altcoin season.
Yeah, completely agree. I'll move in and show you some of the kind of like the bigger picture things that I've got. We can kind of go from there and talk about what these could mean and how they could potentially impact the market. All right, so the first one I want to talk about is the Fed funds rate, because the Fed funds rate is, in my opinion, very important for a couple of different reasons. As we can see going all throughout the past, Fed funds rate has kind of risen and fallen, and it's ebbed and it's flowed over time. We can see usually in times of panic, we can see that the Fed funds rate gets cut very, very hard. And usually in good times, we can see that the Fed funds rate actually goes up to help kind of keep inflation and the growth of the economy under control. Some of you may say, well, that sounds really dumb. Why would you want to like control the growth of the economy? Well, you want to control the growth of the economy because if you don't, you can essentially run into inflation and things can kind of go into hyperinflation, things inflate away. It's not as good as it sounds, right? Like you definitely want to keep a very like well-managed and consistent pace of growth on the economy. One of the tools that the federal government does have, or I guess I should say the Federal Reserve does have, is interest rates. So what we can see is, of course, during like COVID, we saw interest rates come down basically to almost zero. They say it almost near zero, basically through like most of like the crypto bull run that we saw in 2017 or in 2021, right? So definitely a huge like kind of initial piece that did impact kind of the 2021 cycle. However, though, I will not say that this is dependent or this is needed, because if we look at 2017, we can see that we were actually in a point of interest rates rising. So I'm not saying that this is necessarily like required for us to have a run, but this is definitely helpful, right? When the cost of capital is lower, the like risk on environment is a lot higher, a lot of that type of stuff, it's a lot easier for us to see that people want to get a little bit more loose with their funds, because it's just so hard. Like you can't just like sit in a treasury account and collect 4 or 5% interest, like not possible. So you got to find somewhere else to put it. So this is, I think, something, if we see kind of looking forward, we were initially expecting anywhere between 3 to 4 interest rate cuts, which would have put us around kind of like the mid to low threes. But now the Fed is kind of pivoted on that because the economy stays so strong, and they're saying probably going to be about 0 to 1. So we will be probably in a rate of higher interest, or an environment of higher interest rates for longer. Not necessarily a huge problem, but it's just something that is going to kind of impact. Like I said, 2017, we did have a run with interest rates rising. One thing I think we do need to also consider, though, is as crypto becomes larger as a total asset class, it becomes harder to move just generally, right? In 2017, the whole entire asset class was maybe at like $100 billion, somewhere around there. So, $100 billion getting pumped into the market doubles the entire market. In 2021, we were probably sitting in total around $1 trillion. $100 billion now only moves the market like 10%. And now we're at the point where the market's sitting about $3.5 trillion, $100 billion pumped into the market is not really going to do anything particularly meaningful for the crypto market. And so that's just kind of a quick way to look into that and how that can look. Also, I did want to show you the federal balance sheet. But before we do that, Altcoin Hero, what are your thoughts on kind of interest rates and how those could potentially impact the probability of this altcoin cycle?
Yeah, definitely. I think this is a good point to bring up here. As interest rates drop, people are more willing to take on the riskier assets, such as crypto. However, I think what is going to start driving a lot of that capital to flow into these markets is utilization of this technology. Once we start seeing corporations or banks or the government start utilizing crypto, that is where we're going to see the massive tidal wave. We could start seeing more people willing to look into this. However, I think that is going to be the big push moving forward. That is going to be the green light for altcoins.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And also I want to show that kind of show a similar chart looking at the Fed using quantitative easing versus quantitative tightening. So let me just move that over. Okay. So looking at this chart, we can see a couple of pretty interesting things going on. Obviously, in the time during COVID, we could see a massive run to the upside. This is when the government was doing quantitative easing, and quantitative easing essentially means that the Fed becomes a buyer in the wider market. So the Fed's out there trying to buy stuff just like we are. And what we can see is from the bottom to the top, the Fed pumps almost $6 trillion into the market. So that is $6 trillion that was not there before, right? And so obviously when you have extra demand in the market and limited supply, prices go up. And so that's part of the reason we were able to see prices go crazy so fast, especially during such a weird time of economic uncertainty, is because the Fed was kind of artificially inflating the market with money that wasn't really part of like the liquid markets or just the like private enterprise. And so that's part of what we saw there. As we've seen, kind of they pivoted in about the first quarter of 2022, and they have now started quantitative tightening where they've started to sell off all of the stuff that they were buying during COVID. We can see still almost not even close to kind of where they started, but we can see, they peaked almost at about 9 trillion. They're down at about 6.83 trillion right now. From the sounds of it, they were going to kind of wait until about 6.3-ish trillion before they potentially started stopping quantitative tightening, and they were expecting that to run through June of 2025. So we'll have to see kind of how that ends up working out. From just a pure like fiscal perspective, starting at 3 trillion and ending at 6, and before we start quantitative easing again, doesn't seem like kind of the right way to do that. But that is kind of what we're looking at least right now. So it'll be interesting also to see, when the Fed again potentially stops selling and potentially becomes a buyer within the market. Again, there's going to be more competition. Prices are going to go up, and again, people might be looking for a better risk reward type of perspective than somewhere else where the Fed's buying things up, where it really, because the Fed, you have to remember, it isn't in it to make a profit. So they can buy things that make absolutely no reasonable financial sense because they don't care. And so that kind of pushes the private markets elsewhere where they actually do care about making a profit. So it will be interesting to see kind of as we start to pivot out of, again, potentially out of quantitative tightening into again, possible period of quantitative easing, how that does for things. And again, we also have to remember, we can see back looking at 2017, we also saw another crazy bull run in 2017. There was not a whole bunch of money being pumped into the market like we saw in 2021. However, we can see the Fed was also not dumping on the market either. So they were kind of essentially just holding fairly steady. And so I do think quantitative easing isn't necessarily required for another altcoin season to kick off, but I do think probably the stop of quantitative tightening will probably help that. So what are your thoughts about that, Altcoin Hero?
Yep, I'd agree with you there as well. Right. I mean, just seeing them reverse, I think positive outlook moving forward. I think it makes people willing to start also changing their mindset and buying risk on assets. And so I think this will be interesting to see how it plays out with the interest rates coming up as well, and if they're going to continue to cut those. And so there is an FOMC meeting this week where we could see if they make the decision to continue to cut rates as well. And so that's something to be paying attention to. Now, if I go back to sharing my screen here, we can go ahead and take a look at the Bitcoin dominance chart. And so if we go ahead and take a look at the Bitcoin dominance chart here, we can see in 2017, 2021, and now 2025, if we're going to see Bitcoin dominance start falling down. Now, Bitcoin dominance means that money is flowing into altcoins. Once we start seeing this drop, right now, Bitcoin dominance is 58.8% of the total market cap of cryptocurrencies. And so in 2017 here, we saw a lot of altcoins rally. You could just about buy any cryptocurrency in the market and it was going to go up. There was only 3,000 tokens that existed in 2017. Now in 2021 here, there was about 300,000 tokens that existed. However, once this started falling down here, we started to see a big inflow into altcoins. And right now we have not seen the reversal here yet in 2025 for altcoins. However, I do believe that is going to be coming just because the utilization of crypto is going to be beyond Bitcoin. And so I think there's other cryptocurrencies out there that are going to provide that value. And once we see that happen here, that is when I think we will start seeing the reversal here with the Bitcoin dominance. Now, something interesting to look at here, the yellow lines are the Bitcoin halvings. And so if we take a measurement between these here, we can see this is roughly about 250 days before we started to see this fall off. We can see the same thing here as well from this Bitcoin halving in 2021 here. We can see it started falling right around 250 days as well. And right now we're at about that 250 days. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen. However, it is an interesting thing to look at from a TA perspective that we could start seeing the reversal here with Bitcoin. Now, there could be a big impact, right? I mean, if the government comes out and says that there's going to be a Bitcoin strategic reserve and they're going to buy billions and billions of dollars of Bitcoin, well, then we're going to start seeing this probably go up, right? If they do the opposite and do the Bitcoin stockpile and start buying altcoins, well, that's when we're going to start also seeing this start falling over here. And we're going to see a lot of money start flowing into altcoins. And so this is definitely something to be paying attention to. And so, as I mentioned, there's also a ton of tokens that have been minted in 2025. And so if we take a look at this chart here, in 2017, as I mentioned, there was only 3,000 tokens that existed. In 2021 here, there was 300,000 tokens that existed. And today we're talking 36 million tokens. The CEO of Coinbase just mentioned that there is 1 million tokens being created every single week right now. That is insane. However, the majority of those we can see are on Solana here, which could be very bullish for Solana moving forward. However, a lot of the tokens that are being created are done on Pump Fund, which is utilizing Solana. And so that is a lot of these tokens here. A lot of these are meme coins. A lot of these tokens are created and then they are rug pulled a few hours after that, and then no one uses them anymore. And so that's something to be paying attention to as well. Now, I've always been mentioning that utility of cryptocurrencies is going to be key moving forward. And so I think that is definitely going to be something to be paying attention to, just because not every single altcoin out there, right? There's 36 million tokens that have been created are going to go up when we start seeing altcoin season take place. It's going to be the altcoins that are providing utility, that are providing value moving forward. And so if you enjoyed this video, do me a favor and hit the like button and subscribe for future videos. Also, make sure to check out the links underneath the video to Cade's YouTube and X channel. I will post that information underneath the video. And so thanks so much for jumping on the channel here, Cade. I appreciate having you, and I hope to see you in the next video.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Altcoin Hero. I really appreciate it. It's always fun to talk about and kind of go over the stats here. I hadn't actually even really seen too much about this, how many coins are like within the crypto market. Wild numbers, super, super crazy. So yeah, thanks for sharing that. Tons of fun. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I agree with you. It's pretty crazy to think that there are 36 million tokens that exist out there, and that there's 1 million tokens being created every single week, right? A lot of those are meme coin. Yes, there is tokens out there that are providing utility. I am personally focusing on those tokens.